Catherine Parson, Managing Director of Principal Selection. We specialize in recruitment in technology companies in UK and internationally. Today, I am delighted to receive Simon Brown. Simon is a consultant in organization change at MCR, a management consultancy firm in London. Simon is a seasoned HR director. He has worked for large companies in the past, of which Coca-Cola, and he was also director of recruitment at GSK. Today, we are going to discuss some questions around a topic which is very close to my heart, good recruitment practices.
Hi, Catherine. Yeah, good to be here.
My first question to you will be, how do you think we get the best from an interview with a candidate?
I think the reality is that you will not get to know the whole person in 1 hour. You will not probably get to know enough to make a final decision. But certainly 1 hour does give you the opportunity, if you create the right environment where the candidate can relax, you can talk informally, as well as have some structured questions, which are consistent, for all candidates. Then I think you can gather quite a lot of information, which will help you to at least identify a short list of candidates, which you then want to go forward and screen in a follow-up interview.
A lot of recruiters are doing candidate investigations on social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Do you think that it is ethical to do that, or do you think that we should restrict ourselves to LinkedIn and just what the candidate is telling us or referencing, of course, at some point?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at professional profiles, and obviously LinkedIn is a professional site. The advantage of LinkedIn is that it will tell you how that candidate wants to present themselves in a professional context. I look for a photograph, I look for a description of the roles that they have done, which matches how they present on their CV. I look for endorsements, so if they have certain skills and other people have endorsed them, particularly people that are known as experts in those areas, I think that's really good information. And obviously, if they've got recommendations, that also helps. I mean, these things are earned rather than just created by the candidate who puts that profile together. So for me, I would always see LinkedIn as a very valuable source of information. My challenge with some of the other social media is that they are more informal, and for example, Facebook has more of a profile around party, family, what you do at the weekends, etc. And and whilst it could be quite interesting, I don't think it's relevant to deciding primarily what the interview is about. Does the person have the relevant skills? Do they have the right experience? Do they present themselves in a way where they're communicating effectively and professionally? And do they demonstrate motivation and right fit for the job that you have? Whether they've attended a disco in London, or gone for a rock climbing session in Wales isn't really relevant to that decision process. So I would say don't stalk social media, but do look at LinkedIn, which you can do obviously in the early stages of the selection process when searching for candidates or looking at their profiles before they arrive at the interview.
What I like to check as well is the activity people have on LinkedIn as well, because it can tell quite a lot about people. And I even know a software company which has done analysis on this activity and can give a lot of markers about a candidate, about a person. So it's very interesting.
Yes. What I sometimes concern with is a LinkedIn profile that's very, very light. a LinkedIn profile without a photograph, a LinkedIn profile that doesn't tell you what that person has been doing in their career, with no endorsements and no recommendations, and no, to your point, no posts or no comments or likes on other people's posts.
Yes.
It means that they're not really utilizing a very powerful tool to present their professional profile.
That leads me to another interesting question about biases. In my 16 years career as a recruiter, executive recruiter, I have found that it often happens that my clients, don't put in a job description, some important points that they want from a person, but during a conversation with them, they will express it directly or indirectly. So I can give you examples of biases. The most common one is age. And we know that we cannot discriminate candidates for age, race, gender, sex orientation, religion. So we know that, but some clients express that in a conversation. Also gender, sometimes they prefer a woman, sometimes they prefer a man. So those biases for us recruiter are sometimes a challenge, because we should be totally impartial and as objective as possible. But ultimately, the client decides, right, on the candidate. So how do we navigate that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Catherine, because I think, as you say, the client from the company or the organization is aware of legislation in most cases around discrimination. And that's why they haven't put anything in writing into the job post. On the other hand, if they're informally saying, I prefer this or I want one of those, they're trying to navigate round the anti-discrimination legislation. And probably as a recruiter, I feel very passionately that selection criteria should not be on any other factor than, does the person have the relevant skills and an experience and motivation for the role? All the others really are not relevant to the selection decision. So I'd like to think that we're helping the client company by presenting to them, a talent pool which meets the formal criteria in the job description. And therefore, if they would say, well, I only want to employ a woman, if I find a talent pool of people which is of both genders, and they match the skill criteria, I will present them on a shortlist, certainly. I think it's only fair that we play our role to support diversity, equality, and inclusion. And part of that is to help protect the client, sometimes against themselves, in not stepping over that line. Absolutely. And to obviously advise them that you are aware that discrimination cases can be brought where there's evidence of discrimination in the selection process. And I think even just reminding them of the legislation will help remove some of those anecdotal views about they must be this or they must be that, or they must be under 40 years old, or they must have gone to university as part of their background.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think this is our duty actually to constantly work with these guidelines, and to challenge the client, if they go in the other way. I have refused sometimes to work with some clients which values I was not sharing, so.
No, I think that's important from an integrity point of view, to say no to work where you're not confident that the client would honour the integrity, because our own reputation is at stake, as well as the client's reputation. And I much prefer to take an approach where, if you can align and partner with clients, you can have a long-standing relationship. You can do work together over months and years, but certainly if there's a jar, in the sense that their beliefs are very different and on the edge of being legal, then I think it's okay to actually try to coach them. But if they're not receptive to that, to say, well, actually, I don't think I'm best placed to handle your assignment.
I hope we can have a few other series on this good
Yeah, it'd be good to have another discussion. It's a big topic.
It's a big topic, and I hear a lot of horror stories from people all the time. So I think if we can contribute to a better image of recruitment, it's all the better, right?
Yeah, look forward to that next discussion. Thank you.